Hello, everybody. This is an episode of God Mode. And what is God Mode, you ask? Well, it's not explicit materia, because that podcast, I just talk to friends about anything, video games and other things as well. But this podcast, basically, Evan McKee is just so freaking funny and witty and kind of annoying a little bit, but that's what makes him great. That he needs his own podcast, and this is what that podcast is. And today, we have a special guest on the God Mode podcast, Miss Cece Howell, or Pamela Howell. I call her Cece. That's the nickname that I've given her, and that's what she is now. That's what she is. So, welcome, both of you.
Yay, I'm glad I'm here.
Thanks for having us, Shane.
Dude, how are you guys doing? Are you guys doing all right?
Yeah.
Everything okay?
Yeah, pretty good, yeah. Pretty good. In these trying times. Like, how many commercials have you seen now about these trying times?
Yeah.
So many.
And about these uncertain times.
I love the truck commercials are like, America, we've always been best when we've been put down.
So, but there's no, like, that's what's funny is like the hoops they have to jump through to get to what they're trying to sell in relation to COVID.
Yeah.
Honestly, you have less reason to buy than ever before, right? But it's like, you may have lost your job, but financing a new Toyota is a good. So try.
Liberty
I love
Mutual.
all of the commercials coming out now. Everybody's wearing masks. They're like, just wear a mask. And I'm like, how are they shooting these commercials so fast? They're like, all right, last time it's that we got it. We got to do it. So ridiculous.
Dude, what they do is they'll hire all the actors with the mask on, and then they don't have to record lines for them because they're just there all around. And so it could be for anything.
Yeah, and they just overdub it.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of masks for for film and stuff. We're like, bro, just whatever. You just act out the part. We can overdub you later.
Yeah. These are not trying times for advertising companies.
No.
Okay.
They're making bank.
These are the best times.
So, all right. So I imagine today's topic is going to be quite lengthy. So let's just go ahead and get into it. What we're going to talk about tonight. Okay. So we're going to talk about The Last of Us 2. That's what we're going to talk about.
Controversial.
So
game
here's the thing.
2020.
So here's what's going to be fun about this podcast. We have two people who have played the game and one person who absolutely refuses to play the game. I'm that one person. And so I will explain my reasonings for not wanting to play the game.
Oh, here we go.
But I will do that after you guys. So I'm going to ask you both, you guys played the game. What did you guys think of it? And then I'll,
But you, okay,
whenever.
so you've never played it. You don't know. Do you know anything about it at all?
I played the first game.
The first one.
Well, not
I
the
played
first one. I'm talking about because the second one, there's a lot of spoilers that,
So, okay. So let's just get into my reasonings why I'm not going to play it. Now, I understand this. Everything that I'm going to say about the game and everything that I heard about the game is exactly that. It's all things that I've heard about the game from people, from well-balanced reviews to kind of biased reviews to people who really love the game. And so that's all I hear about the game. So my personal reasonings why I'm not going to play the game is because, remember, when I first played the original Last of Us, and you too, both of you, were like, you have to play this game. This game is amazing. And I started playing it, and I remember it's great. It is a really good game. It is a really good game. Like the gameplay aspect, I kind of didn't really. Me and Evan had huge a conversation about the gameplay aspects of the original Last of Us. If you guys want to watch that, that's God Mode episode 2. Oh no, it's explicit material before we had the God Mode podcast. So check that out. It's me and Evan McKee talking about Last of Us 2. Anyway, or Last of Us, the original Last of Us. But the story, though, the story is what really got me. The relationship that blossomed between Joel and Ellie. And I told you guys when I was playing that game, if Joel dies, I'm out. I will stop playing that game. because I really like Joel's character, and not only just Joel as a character, but Joel's relationship with Ellie, and Ellie, how she grew with Joel, and like how together as a cohesive unit, they were able to survive in this freaking crazy, a post-apocalyptic world. And that's such a great message. It's such a great moral message, especially when it comes to like horror genre, and horror genre, it's just always kind of like jump scares and just murder and death and gore and blah blah blah. But this actually had like a humanistic story in it, and a believable one. And so Last of Us 2, the story gets leaked, and I tried my best to not be spoiled on it, because I was really looking forward to Last of Us 2, but at the same time I was like, to be completely honest, I probably wasn't going to play it anyway, because I'm not the biggest horror game fan. You guys both know this. Like, it takes a lot for me to get into a horror game. And so then I was spoiled about Joel. And so then I was like, well, how does he die? Like, how does he die? And does his death mean something in the end? So, so I watched how he dies, and I was like, I'm done. That's it. I'm sorry. I can't, I don't, that's just my personal thing. Now, that is completely illogical. I get that. I can get that people are really triggered right now, just like, I can't believe he's not going to play the game. It's like, I'm probably wasn't going to play the game anyway, because that's usually not really my speed, that kind of game. But that's just one reason. Okay. That's the major reason why I was just kind of like turned off by it. But I will say this.
I don't know where to start here, Shane.
I will say this.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
But
keep
hey,
talking. I'll
Evan,
take notes.
in my defense too, you know how picky I am about video games. You know that. Like, I won't even play first person perspective. Remember, we had like a huge conversation about that too, when I was just like, I have a finite amount of time to play video games. Okay. And so it's not like I was 12 anymore. I'm not 12 anymore. I don't have all day to play every game that comes out, and sort of, broaden my horizons. So I'm like, I want to play the games that are fun and that entertain me, and that display messages that I could get on board
wholesome
with.
Family values.
Not wholesome values.
Wholesome family values is what I hear him saying as well.
No, yeah, it's just, I was like, I'd rather not put myself through it. You yourself, in a text message, Evan, told me like the game was good, but it felt like I was being dragged through broken glass. That sounds like a really good time.
I know which parts. I know which parts he's talking about.
Maybe the first thing we should say is that we're gonna do spoilers for The Last of Us 2.
Yeah,
and I don't know how we can talk about this and talk about everything, having to dance around certain things that are there or not. So I want to just go ahead and warn the audience that if you like Shane wanted to keep yourself pure from Last of Us 2 spoilers, which it seems like that didn't really mean anything in Shane's case, because what we just heard him say was, I don't want to play the second one because I liked the first one so much.
Yeah.
Which seems like, I don't have another word for it, a dumb reason not to want to play the second one. But you said in your defense, you said that there's so many hours of the day, you have time to sit down and play a video game. You want it to be one that you enjoy. And so this one plot point that takes away, like it was funny because when you first started talking, I was actually like, what you're describing about the things that you like from the first one makes it sound like you would really enjoy the game. There's a lot of Joel and Ellie moments, okay? Even if they have it happen in flashback, that doesn't take away from the fact that you're enjoying. And that was one thing that there was some people were protesting, because they were like, I thought it was going to be, like the first one in all of these different ways that really they're not entitled to, that really they weren't promised. But while I was playing it, hang on now.
We'll
get to that too.
Okay. There's a little bit of trickery. You gotta.
I was playing it. I was never like, if there's one thing the game. How do I say this? If there's something missing from the game, it's not enough Joel and Ellie time. There is enough Joel and Ellie time. There is enough of that relationship that you said was such an integral part of the first game. Now, They tried some other thing. They experimented with some other stuff. That's fine. Okay. And I don't remember you turning off Game of Thrones at the end of season 1 just because your favorite character died then.
I'm glad that you
I don't-
brought that up. I'm glad. I'm
did.
glad that you brought that up because, okay, how about this? What about all the Walking Dead memes of like, if they kill so and so, we riot?
Right. And many people did, and so they don't watch anymore.
I stopped
Exactly.
watching when my favorite character died of The Walking Dead, but
So
that's
here's
just
my
because it
point.
was just the,
Here's my point. It's a very delicate thing when you kill off a beloved character. Okay, so look, this is my personal preference. I understand it's illogical. I get that. Okay, but here again, I'm very picky when it comes to characters that you're going to kill off. Like, how you do it is important, and you have to also understand that you're crazy if you think that you're not going to get any backlash by killing off one of the major characters in any story, whether it be soap operas, whether it be film or video games. And I think it's especially egregious when it's video games because you actually get to play as these characters. You actually get to fiddle your hands with that. You live vicariously through these characters. So it's even more visceral as opposed to just watching a screen and watching your favorite character die. I feel like that it lets you down a little bit easier when it's a film or a book or something like that, because it's a different experience. At least that is my opinion. But
like killing off Joel was it was a major like story arc. If Joel hadn't been killed off, Ellie wouldn't progress to the person that she was at the end of the game. So I think it helped the Ellie character because it put her through a bunch of stuff. Granted, we had to play as another character for a long time, and that was the like dragging through glass that anyway. But like I think it was needed. Like Joel, their story was finished, right? The Last of Us, it finished the story, and like it was a progression of like what, 8 years was it? It was like a fast forward, and then it was now Ellie's turn and this other character, and they were trying to introduce it. I think it was needed, and not that I wanted it. I cried because I love Joel, but it was like a fresh take because it's like, okay, well, that's the end of that. We're going to start doing something else. And that's,
and don't get me wrong, objectively speaking, I think that's really quite brave what Neil Druckmann did as far as like, you know what, I'm going to take these two established characters that people love and they have an idea of where the story is going to go. And they think that I'm going to play it safe and basically remake, Last of Us 1. No, I'm not going to do that. It's actually, I gotta hand it to him that, that is a brave thing to do, and especially to challenge the player as to play as the villain halfway through the game, and also not tell anybody that you were going to do that. But that's fine. That's you don't need to tell everybody. You don't owe the players anything, to be completely honest. But at the same time, it's like, again, you can't be surprised to get backlash if you marketed a game in a specific way and then, make a completely different game that people were expecting. Now, here's the thing, too, that kind of made me like, really, bro? He, in an interview, Neil Druckmann, again, let me just say before I go into a little rant here, like I totally respect Neil Druckmann and Last of Us 2. And I think that he's, again, very brave and to take that risk and to like, just as an artist, just be like, this is the story I wanted to write. And there you go. I did it. But here's the thing. This is where I'm kind of like, come on, dude. So he apparently was inspired, at least one of the main reasons he was inspired to kill off Joel and take the story in a completely different direction to shock the player was Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear Solid 2. And in Metal Gear Solid 2, if you don't remember, you play as Snake in the first mission. It's like 30, 45 minutes, whatever, just like the original Metal Gear. Everything's like, new and shiny and HD. And then something happens. I can't remember exactly what happens. Either like he dies, quote unquote, or he gets kidnapped or he lost or whatever. And then you play the entire game as this other character named Raiden. and the whole game that you don't see Snake until the very last part. And that's the difference between what Hideo Kojima did and Neil Druckmann did. Neil Druckmann killed off the character. Now imagine for a moment if Hideo Kojima completely killed off Solid Snake, which he would do. let's but he didn't. He brought him back because he knew he wanted to use that character later. Now
so you're saying it would have been okay for Joel to die in the first 5 minutes, provided that you got to play as him first.
No. Provided that you don't like, he didn't kill off Snake like completely. Joel is dead as dead can be. Like,
yeah, but you can always
his story's not going to return ever again unless you do flashbacks, which is kind of like, all right.
There were many more flashbacks. There was way more flashback Joel time than there were. It's like
you're missing what I'm saying, though. You're missing what I'm saying. His story is over. There is nothing else besides flashbacks that you're going to do. There's no continuation of his story. He is dead. He is very dead. Also, apparently he didn't kill off Snake in like a torturous fashion like they did in Last of Us 2. Again, you're going to get backlash when you torture a beloved character. Like what happened in Walking Dead, man. Like the way they killed off Joel was way worse than what Negan did to Glenn.
How dare you? No, I didn't see his eyeball pop out. Okay. Like that was, I still have like heart palpitations when I think about that. Like that hurts my soul. I don't want to bring that up.
That was pretty bad. We didn't want to pick it back up after that all that happened.
No,
We're like,
no.
The only thing that's wanting to keep us coming back is like, honestly, because fucking what's his name, Negan, the actor
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Thank you, Jeffrey Dean Morgan just killed Negan, man. He's just like great.
Killed Negan.
But anyway,
so maybe what we can say, having learned from both The Walking Dead and maybe part 2, because I'll give this to your credit, Shane. I think that if we're thinking about the developer or the writers instead of the story itself, sometimes that's kind of a failure in writing. Like it's the fact that something happens and we're really, really angry at the person that made the story, the person that made the game. Because in Last of Us Part 1 was very much about Joel and Ellie. I never heard of this Neil Druckmann guy. I don't know what that's all about.
He's the guy who created it. He's the creator of Last of Us.
I loved the story, right? And I thought it was a really cool thing that we were a part of. Now, I think that at the end of the game, I think that there's a really defining point where the controls kind of get taken away from you, and there's this very, very important choice that's made outside of you. And that's one thing that they really overdid, I think, in the second ones. Almost all of the major choices in the second game are made without any input from you. Like the characters decide to do this and you're along for it, whether you agree with it or not, which was...
That was another point I wanted to bring up. Yeah.
What made the first one, that taking away of agency, it actually made me mad in the first one. I remember thinking, I wish they had made this a choice for us.
Right.
But then after a while, enough time had gone by and I looked back and I was like, this is the story that they wanted to tell. And they also had kind of a subtext along with it of like, this isn't about you. Even this is a video game where you're the one controlling it. The story that we want to tell depends on the character doing something and, ultimately getting all the consequences from it.
Fair enough.
Which I thought was just, I guess, mind blowing and like really cool for me, I guess, because no one had ever like taken that much agency away from me as a player. In fact, many other games try to get as much choices in as possible. Ooh, I'm gonna change things in the game world like because of this and everything like that. So I think that when you said that Joel's story was done, I think there's a case to be made for Joel's story being finished after The Last of Us Part 1. He didn't have to die for the fact that like his decision was there, and it almost would have even felt cheap even to pick it back up again and say, now you're going to do things that Joel would do and make choices that Joel would make. And you're like, well, I've already there was already this real big thing that I didn't have any part of. And I'm glad now that I didn't, but I'm glad the perspective has shifted some, so I can look at it. I can see Joel the way that Ellie sees Joel, without any of my own bias coming into play.
Yeah, I do like the fact that like the way, I mean, I don't obviously like the way he was killed off, but like it does show that like he was a different person before he met Ellie and before this whole thing. And so
And after,
this is like, yeah, and it's just coming back to haunt him, and it sucks. But I just think it was a good death. I do.
It does suck, but it doesn't mean he didn't deserve it. Like, it doesn't mean that it was unjust, completely out of nowhere. In this like really harsh post-apocalyptic world where there's no innocence at all, there's no room for being naive. Like, the weak get killed off and anything else. It was something that really sucks that it happened. Yeah. But I can't argue and be like, it shouldn't have happened.
Right. It's just a new norm of their lifestyle, you know, acting revenge. You did this to me, I'm going to do this to you, because the same thing happened after Joel died. Ellie was like, I got to go get revenge. And his brother was like, I got to go get revenge. And then it's a vicious cycle, and that's just the society.
I will say that I really enjoy that angle. Like, I really enjoy the nuance that he took, and as far as telling, you know, to the point of where you actually play the villain that killed your favorite character. Like, now that Joel is dead, now you get to play as the person that just killed Joel. So like, again,
that was not so enjoyable.
No.
Right. And so like, I would, again, very brave. He took a risk, because not a whole lot of developers would do that, because like in video games, again, it's like, if I would maybe argue that this whole story would probably be better suited for film or a TV show as opposed to an actual video game, because what I'm about to say is, because video games, you can tell a moralistic story, but at a certain point you have to have like, I don't know, something like, you have to have like a light at the end of the tunnel, like the original Last of Us did. You know, at the very end, like, they went through all this crap together, and then, you know, they come out, and it's like, you can even tell in the color of the last scene, it's all bright, and there's this giraffe, and you're like, oh man, what a great way to end a story. You know, like, what a just great time. And then, you know, and then the tonal shift for this, apparent tonal shift for the second game. Now, I could be wrong in that, because I haven't played the game, but from what I heard, like, and from what I've read, and from what, you know, it's just kind of like he wants to tell a different story, which, again, as a writer, as an artist, like, you know, kudos to you for wanting to be different, because I get that, as, you know, as a drummer and musician, whatever, you don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again.
I hearing you say that, just everything you're saying makes me want you to play the game. Like the whole light at the end of the tunnel thing, I think about how there's like a point in the game where you're actually designed to think the game is over, because everything is nice, and you know, then the game kind of like reminds you that you know, this theme that we talked about of this never-ending cycle of retributive violence is very, very core to like what I would say maybe the message of the game is, and like what you're kind of supposed to think about, I guess, after the game's over. And the game kind of, it's really weird the way that it does it, but the game kind of taps you on the shoulder and is like, everything being over and life being great is not why you're sitting here playing the video game, because the video game is you sneaking up on people and shanking them and then killing, you know, the infested rat king. And like, that's the part that's fun. And so why even are you trying to help these characters escape this life that, you know, and that's how it like kind of sucks you back in to be like, retributive violence is never, it's calling you again.
It's calling you again.
There's a really good quote by Wendell Berry, who was like a pacifist Christian theologist in like the 60s and 70s. So pacifism in the 60s meant that you were talking about why we shouldn't be in Vietnam, and he had all these arguments for why we as a country, America, should not be fighting another country, even if we come up with some reason why they have wronged us. And one thing he said that is never that is always stuck in my head, if I can remember it. He was like, people will come up to me, and when I speak sometimes, and I speak about pacifism, people will ask me, what if someone hurt someone that you loved? Like, what if someone like raped your daughter or killed
Right.
or murdered your family? What then? Are you then like, are you then righteous to go out and seek justice? And he said, the answer is that I would be really, really angry and I would want to kill them. And he was like, and I could go and I could kill them. And then their brother could kill me. And then my son could kill their brother,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And he said, and you know what? The world may be better off without all of us. But the problem of retributive violence is there's no end,
There's
and
no
there's no
end.
means to an end. And that's why he said, that's why we were so smart to come up with the laws that say it's not legal to kill someone, even if it's a revenge killing. And we've come up with those laws in our private, right? Like our small lives that cops enforce. But for some reason, country to country, that doesn't apply. It's the accepted and honored practice between armies to say they hurt me, well, we're going to hurt them. That's our duty now.
Yeah.
And he was pointing out how like it didn't, if what didn't make sense for one person didn't make sense for like everybody either. And that's what I kept thinking about in this kind of like trade-off that you do between Ellie and Abby back and forth, where like both sides after a certain point, it's like both sides are like Israel and Palestine, right? Like it's just like it's always been going on. So like there's no, you can't be like, oh, but they've done 16 things and I've done 18 things. It just doesn't go down like that.
Yeah. Dude, again, I really like that. I really like that take, that that particular moral, because you don't really hear that moral, and you especially don't play that
video
moral.
games,
not in a video
no,
game,
never.
for sure.
Yeah.
But the question is like, does that make for a good video game as opposed to a statement? Like, now here's the thing: is it a statement or is it a video game? I can't like, so if it's a statement, then you're going to get backlash. It's just going to happen because not everyone's going to agree with it, and especially on how you tell the statement, like, and how you like tell.
I think there was already going to be backlash to it because like the game, Dino bought the game like right when it came out, right?
Mhm.
And like 5 hours after it came out, there was already a ton of negative comments. And I was like, we are only like 5 hours in. How is there so many? And I think it was just, I was reading up on it because I was like, why is there so many people? And I don't think it was because of the game itself. I think it already had a ton of backlash because of the main character and her, like, her way of life, being a lesbian. Like, I honestly think it.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you
Are
on
you
that.
serious?
Yeah, I would. Because, like, look, here's the deal. Like, of course, like there's going to be guys and girls respectively that are just stupid idiots, and they'll just say things because they're mad, and they're like, this is gays. Dude, gay people have been in video games since the last 15 years, like the original Dragon Age, Mass Effect. Like, I can name a whole bunch, no controversy whatsoever. And you get to choose your sexual path, and that's really cool. So like the whole idea that like most of the people that hate on this game they're just a bunch of bigots.
I'm not saying most of them. I'm just saying like,
I'm not
there
saying
has to be like like this game was out for not even 5 hours, and there was like a ton, and I was like, it can't be the game because so far this game is great, and like I don't understand. I think there had to have been like some underlying besides just the gameplay.
I think to be like, again, like me trying to be an optimist about just controversy in general. I think, all right, like I said before, if you're going to try and make a statement, and it depends on how you are you informing, are you educating your audience, or are you lecturing them? So if people, now again, I haven't played the game and I don't know which one is true, but if people sniff a little bit of lecturing, people go nuts. They just, and that goes with either way, left or right. It doesn't matter. If you have a Christian conservative that's just like Jesus, you're like, okay, I'm done with the Jesus stuff. Like, enough. I don't care. And the same thing goes with the other side too. So it's like, you don't want to be lectured on something. You're just like, just let me play a good fun game. Like, let me play the game. Like, but that is my optimistic take on why people say stupid shit on the internet. Now, to be completely fair, like, and we should totally call those people out, you know, absolutely. But again, like, if we spend all day calling out people saying horrible things on the internet, we're never going to get anything done.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, having played it, I think part of it, Shane, maybe less like the lecture angle that you were talking, and maybe more the idea that like when people played the first game, they probably identified a lot with Joel. They were probably grizzled gamers with like really deep voices. And so as Ellie became Joel's surrogate daughter, she also became our surrogate daughter. And so it was pretty disappointing, I think, when the second one came out, to see how many people would react if their actual daughter turned out to be a lesbian. Yeah. That was pretty disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. But I think that could be part of it. The way that they see Ellie in their minds. They've never sexualized her, but they see her as like that.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think too, like the whole Joel thing, like people, I heard that argument and I was like, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, sure. I mean, you identify with characters all the time in games and stuff. And so, I mean, I think that would be a valid reason why someone would be upset if you identify with a particular character. But, you know, how many, you know, 38-year-old grizzled Texans with a not Texas accent apparently in the second game, but like, I don't know, like how many of those gamers are there? I don't know, but
I'm just trying to come up with a reason why there were so many, because I think we all agree that there were more dumb comments about that than maybe there should have been.
Yeah.
But maybe that was just my guess.
Yeah.
I mean, like we're all on the same page.
Again,
that wasn't the core thing.
And some of them didn't even have, like, they didn't even have anything to say. They're just like, this game is shit, and this game is shit, this
trolling.
Is awful. And it was so, it looked like someone was like trying to just smash a ton of hate to this game that came out 5 hours before all these comments. And like I read articles about it. Like there was some articles on like I think Metacritic and like some other things saying like why is there so many people hating this game when they've only played it for like, you know, a few hours. Yeah. And a lot of them was like, is it because of the sexual orientation of Ellie? Is it because Joel was killed? Like, are people so hot about that? Is that why people are just...
Or maybe it's not as good of a story as everyone thinks it is.
Oh, hush your face. It's a great story.
I'm just saying, like, look, here, I haven't played the game. So again, but from respected people that I watch review games and talk about games, and I respect their opinion and their view on things, especially Liana Kersner. She's like middle of the road, like she respects, you know, both sides of the argument, and so she had a lot of problems with this game, and it was mainly because of the sort of talking down, as opposed to. It's like, I don't know, like she's not here, obviously. I don't know her, but you just watch her videos because she breaks her view on The Last of Us pretty well. And I'm like, okay, that's very interesting. Again, it's when we're talking about these cultural issues and stuff like that, it's just, we talk about this for days. And it's like nothing ever really gets accomplished. But again, it's like the whole like, people being upset that Ellie is gay is like, I don't think that's a problem because again, like gay characters has existed for a long time. That's not the thing. It's like, I think the whole reason, a big reason why Joel was the anger with Joel dying too is not because they identified with him, but that he was a father-like figure, and that in the second one, they gave you a reason to sort of excuse his death. They're like, hey, Joel just didn't die because of he actually killed, you know, Abby's father in cold blood, which apparently came from the first game. Am I remember that?
Yeah.
Is that a playable moment, or do you just do it?
In the first game, the father in the first game that they put there is a black dude. And so they actually had to retcon that. And Like the scene,
But it's a
it is a playable
masterpiece.
scene. In fact, you can't, if you stand there with your gun and don't shoot, eventually that doctor will attack you with a scalpel. So the only way to proceed in the game, like
Okay.
there's no way to not kill that doctor.
Okay,
And that's like the right there.
so
the
here's
most pivotal
okay.
moment of the
So
game.
here we go. So another reason why people would be upset that they killed off Joel is like, what if you played the original game and didn't kill the doctor, and the doctor came after you, and you defended yourself, trying to save your daughter, essentially from death, essentially. So Joel has become at that moment, like, he's not a perfect character. None of these characters are perfect, but he has essentially become the hero of the story, at least in the first one. So he comes back. He comes into the second the story, the second the sequel, and now they're going to tell you that Joel is actually a bad dude. He actually has done bad things. You just don't remember it. So here you go. He killed Abby's father.
No.
Punishing the player for the character's choices is something that happens, a lot in this game and in part one. But like, the Fireflies had every reason to think that Joel was not the hero, right?
Yeah.
Just because you think Joel was the hero because your camera was over his shoulder for a couple hours, that makes Joel the hero. Joel ended the entire human race, basically. Joel killed
Really did.
indirectly millions and millions of people, right? And the guy with the doctor with the scalpel, that's the real hero, Shane. And you could have made that argument at the end of the end of the first one, but that's what you discover an entire community of people in the second one that has seen it from that perspective. And maybe this game is a way of like slapping you and being like, think this through for just a second. Like this, this decision that was made doomed the entire human race.
Okay, but then
And it was
wouldn't
Joel's
it have been
fault.
better? Wouldn't it have been better if they had made it a choice game? Like, again, CD Projekt Red. Can we just bring up CD Projekt Red for a second?
But
like,
didn't you just complain that the second game happened without a choice, like in spite of the choices of the first player? So now you want to make it like Mass Effect, where at the beginning they're like, tell us the 5 choices you made so we can figure out who's alive and who's dead and what you did and didn't do and which one's your favorite.
No, what did I say? What did I say? I can't remember what I said.
Well, you were butthurt. I mean, upset. I mean, validly upset. Because you were like, well, what if people in the first game hadn't killed the doctor or hadn't killed him in a way that the cutscene showed? But
Right.
that was the thing. The game didn't let you not kill the doctor.
Right. So my thing is like, look, if you're gonna essentially do that, then I don't know, man. If again, it's like you're dealing with a game that deals with dire consequences of your choices, and
No, not your choices. Never
okay,
your
right.
choices.
Exactly my
Yeah.
point. It's like these characters' choices.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of again dragged through this story that you're like, I mean, you want something to happen, but it doesn't happen the way you want it, and it's just like, I don't know.
But you're
man.
saying that
Life
like
chain.
we're okay with Joel dying because we realize that he was like the game is like trying to tell us that he's a bad guy. That's not true. Like when the game starts, like Joel's not a bad guy. Joel, he
Right.
gave Ellie a guitar and
Mhm.
like, but then you find out that Ellie found out, and it goes in the process of Ellie finding out that she was saved by Joel because Joel didn't want to lose her, right? So then it goes through the process of like her finding out and her being pissed, and then you go through that, and then you go through flashbacks of like Joel doing this for her birthday. So you don't have time to be mad at Joel or think Joel's a bad guy when he dies, because you don't know any of that. You just know that somebody's gonna kill Joel, somebody killed Joel, and we got to figure out why. And then you find out that he's 2 different people. Like there is 2 different people. But I don't think that I'm like saying, oh, it's fine, Joel died. It's whatever. The first one, whatever. It's cool. Let's just kill him off and try something else. Yeah, like there's so much more to the game than you were told, That's why I think you should play the game.
I think you should play the game
don't know,
too.
man.
I think we should have
I
I think
don't
we should
know.
delete this video and make it after you play the game.
There's so many underlining stories, so much like intertwining, and like what Joel was, who Joel was. You find out so much more of him because of the flashbacks and the stories and the just everything. Like I like Joel more, kind of. There's a few things that I don't like about him, but like it makes him closer to him.
Well, there's a lot of things about this story that again, you can tell that I'm sort of triggered by the whole thing, is because there's many things. Like, number one, I hate it when they kill off characters that I love in stories. I fucking hate it. I can't.
I mean, I love it.
And I
so
hate
great.
it even more. I hate even more when writers think it's like the best thing to freaking do, and they're just like, look what I did. I killed off your favorite character, and we're here to teach you a lesson about this because your favorite character is actually not, I don't know, just because the things, whatever. And I'm just like, dude, all right. It's the killing off the main character in stories has been done a million times. Let's think about something else. Let's think about something different. Like, I don't know.
But again, I think it's a necessity because Joel's story was over. Like Evan said, like his major story arc happened in the first one. What are they gonna go with Joel? He's gonna be hanging out in the commune and like
children on his knee.
Yeah, like it had to happen because it showed the importance of what happens when you get revenge for somebody. It had to happen because nobody else's stories would progress. Not Ellie's, not what's his brother's name?
Tommy.
Yeah, not Tommy, not Abby, and like nothing.
Right,
nothing.
So let's talk about Abby
Allie.
for a second, because Cece, you wanted to talk about Abby for a second. So
Did I?
you have the floor. Let's talk about that part, because both of you have both said that part kind of was not great.
Just because it was so long. If you would have cut it down, I would have been fine. But it was so long, and all they wanted you to do was feel sympathy for this person. That's what it was. They wanted you to feel bad for Abby, and everything that happened in her life was because of Joel. So once you kill Joel, then you play as Abby, and you're like, oh, I don't want to be her, right? And then you're stuck with her for, it feels like,
You're
30,000 hours.
Until you like her, yeah.
And I never did like
with
her.
her until you like her.
Never liked her.
I'm actually
yeah.
Team Abby.
Really?
How did he say that? Yeah.
I don't like her. And I don't know. She rubbed me the wrong way. She's just I thought she was kind of whiny, but.
And again,
he had boss muscles though. Like, let me tell you, those arms, man.
The cannons. And I don't want to give the impression.
Is she like a bodybuilder in the game or something like that explains that is she like CrossFit?
Do you remember the episode of The Simpsons where Marge Simpson gets mugged in an alley, and so she bulks up, like she develops like huge arms and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's part of, like, I think in their minds that's like part of like the visual. After she saw her father die, she decided no one else would ever Marge Simpson her.
And they showed like where she was training too, because they show the Firefly.
I was really
like
hoping
a
that they would
massive gym.
Yeah, I was really hoping that they would like mention that, because like, have you seen like the girl that was modeled after Abby? Dude, that girl freaking could get it, man. She's just like, I mean, just
they didn't just put like a hot girl's face onto like.
Oh, they did.
Well, no, they here's the other thing about Abby that like
Shane knows more about this game than we do. Let's see it.
Here's the other thing about Abby that people like jumped on as like a whole bunch, like, oh, you're this is the whole example of gamers being bigots and misogynists because they don't like Abby. I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, there is going to be idiot misogynists, any people anywhere, gamers or not. It's just it's a fact of life. There's people are stupid. But what they did with Abby particularly, I didn't know this, but what's going on with Abby as far as the actual look of the character model is they modeled her after 3 different women. The face, the
left
voice,
arm, right arm,
no,
body.
It was the face was one woman, the voice is another woman, and the body is another woman. So that's 3 different women for one person. So I can imagine that when people look at a character like that, there could be some sort of like uncanny valley sort of situation that's going on. You're like, there's something about this character that is making me, I don't know, but you know, I don't know.
Making me.
I just didn't like
I
her
don't know.
personality.
Some
Like,
people might be into it, you know, just be whatever.
No, they had
That way.
a, like I feel like I should make it clear that I'm not like the absolute foil to like what Shane's perspective here is. Like I don't love the game unconditionally with 100. I didn't give it 100% out of 100 as far as like games go and stuff. And I think one of the valid criticisms was this kind of like moral mashed potatoes that you just get mashed in over and over and over, because the game at different times has you liking and not liking the characters you're playing it. I can remember at least twice where I was fighting someone and I wanted the other person to win. Like I was rooting for the other person to win. Like the only way I was going to progress through this game was if I like beat the living hell out of a character that I liked at that point, or that I thought maybe thought had like a moral high ground. But you know,
I was like, no, I'm just gonna die. I'm just gonna die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they do that, and you know, and they did that on purpose. But like,
does anybody have like redemption arcs at all?
No,
Like,
okay. Abby does have like a redemption arc. There is a storyline where like it wants you to like her, and it wants you to feel bad. And there's this whole thing with this other tribe. Let's say tribe. And
Cult.
Yeah, cult.
Yeah, cult is a better word.
And she had actions that I really liked. And I was like, okay, well, I can get on board. Just because I don't really like her personality doesn't mean like I don't like what she's doing, right? So like that was cool. But I still not a fan of her. I still don't really like this.
Don't ignore the fact that Team Abby was the first one to put a stop to. And yes, I give Lev credit because it wasn't really Abby that made the decision to walk away, but Abby was the first one to stop to say enough is enough when it came to the cycle of retributive violence. And that was one thing that it kind of made me mad, because obviously I like Ellie too, and I wish they'd given her more like good decisions. And that's again a failure on the writer's part if I'm thinking about the writers and mad at them because I'm like, here's this person I liked, but you made them not do things that I would have liked. And they made me kill dogs. I actually found I'm opposed to any game that makes me kill a dog ever, but in this game you like kill a dog and then you like, as Abby in flashbacks, raise the family.
I know.
The dog and hug the dog.
That's
what I mean about broken glass. Like that was what I was just like.
Yeah,
and there's actually a guide online.
So that sounds like a lot of fun that I'd like to experience. Actually killing a dog and then having the writer shame me for doing so, even though it wasn't your choice.
Exactly.
That was a hard one.
I actually found a guide online which talked about how to get through the game killing as few dogs as possible. Like that was the point that they made this to be like, this is how you get past the first dog without killing them, and then the second dog. But there's one that you can't avoid killing that you actually kill in a quick time event. So there's no way to beat the entire game without killing a beloved family pet.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm morally opposed to training dogs as weapons. So.
Yeah. I mean, I just stopped watching Chernobyl because of that one episode with the dogs. I was like, I'm good. I don't want to watch this. I'm okay. Like I had to leave the room and I like asked Daniel, I was like, is it over? And he's like, no. Okay, well, I'm not getting back.
Always
me and Ash just watched Signs last night. And remember that part where, both of their dogs die actually in that spoiler alert. Like, that poor dog, they get chained up outside because the first dog attacked the girl, and you hear the dog. Oh man, it was that I have to mute it.
Heartbreaking.
Fun conversations we're having here.
Can we just all agree? All three of us agree that it's never okay to kill dogs in any art medium whatsoever.
No.
Yeah, and you know what the worst part is when
it's actually not okay to kill dogs ever. So
you accidentally hit a dog in a game, and at first you're like, oh, I feel bad, and then you're like, what did they do to a dog in a sound recording studio to make it make that noise that it just made? Okay?
Oh my God.
Because they didn't just go, all right, we're ready, Rufus, and go. To get that
Why did you think of that? Totally.
Exactly. So who are the real villains?
Well,
not Abby.
sometimes dogs just make that sound because they're just kind of weird dogs. Like we have our dog Bentley, he whines all the time. Just whines, just to whine. I'm like, he's
Oh,
fed.
that's what you tell the
he's got his
Department of
meds.
Human Services when they come by. He just makes those. It means he's happy, guys. When he whines like that.
No, I mean he
Oh
just
my God.
that's what he does. Like he's fed. We love him. He's just a weird dog. And he's just like, do you want to go outside? It's like, yeah, I want to go outside. And he runs outside and he'll come back and then he'll be fine for a little bit. He's anxious dog. He's an anxious dog. He doesn't like it when it rains. And yeah. But
Even then, even if they had like a plate of dog biscuits and cookies and they were like, you want, and they're like, the microphone is right there and the dog's like happy, and then they take it away and the dog, even that makes
Oh, it's so sad.
I know, right?
I was thinking about that. I was watching Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World, and we know when he's in San Diego, and then you see him holding up the chain. It still triggers me to this day, and I'm like, oh, Daniel, and Daniel's like, what? I was like, the poor dog. Yeah.
He was just
Still
doing
look
his
at me,
job
though.
protecting the house.
I
It's
know.
never
And he like
okay.
hid in the doghouse. He ran away.
it's never okay. That's reason enough for me not to play the game. So I'm killing dogs for no reason.
I mean, it's either, I'm not justifying killing animals, but like, it's either they bite you and kill you because that's their job, like that's
Yeah.
what they were trained for,
Just like the
or
And I think too,
Scalpel, right?
and I think too, like
What?
you guys said
The
yourselves
first
that.
dog.
Yeah, I mean, Evan, you said yourself that you wouldn't have scored it like a 10 out of 10,
Yeah, I
right?
agree.
I mean,
The first one was better. I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
deny that the first one was better, and it actually bothered me a little bit that the thing I liked so much about the first one, this one major event at the very end that was like the choice, that was this morally ambiguous thing that made you think about philosophy in your own life and everything else. And you huddled up in a corner for weeks. You guys know what I'm talking about.
yeah. of
So
course.
that was so eventful that like they made the entire second game about that from start to finish, like nothing but that the entire time.
Yeah.
Without ever giving any closure on like Ellie's immunization. They just make it that one. The thing that happened at the end of the first one is like what the game is about. So honestly, the second one is there and being a story because of how good the first one is. And I don't think there's I think it's unfortunate that it wasn't that impact that the first one had because they did something else crazy. But
I mean, because that was another point that I wanted to bring up. I mean, Cece, would you score it a 10 out of 10?
No, I mean, sequels are never as good as the first ones, right? It's like the
Unfortunately.
golden
It's a curse.
rule.
Yeah, it's a curse.
Assassin's Creed 2, that game is still freaking amazing.
I know a
Man.
series of videos I think you would enjoy that ranks the Assassin's Creeds that I found extremely informative.
But I wouldn't give it a low score. Like the story was intriguing. I liked most of the characters. Abby had her good parts. Like it wasn't a bad story, but yeah, there was a few things missing, and again, like her like all that stuff. What am I trying to say? Yeah, it was okay.
I'm glad I played it.
Yeah.
And I feel bad that Shane has some things holding him back.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things holding me back playing a lot of different games, all of them which are illogical and stupid, and that's the reason why another reason because it's fun. It's fun to.
Why don't I just watch
making-
someone play it? Like
Well,
Jacksepticeye on YouTube.
I have
my wife
a little bit. I have a little bit, but
What? Leah's playing? Is that what you said?
No,
My wife?
she watched me play it. Because
Yeah.
all of the Naughty Dog games, Uncharted, Tomb Raider, which by the way,
I love Tomb Raider.
the Tomb Raider remake in 2013 is like that's what The Last of Us 2 reminded me of so much because they're both Naughty Dog. It's both like the same kind of things.
Mhm.
That game is so good. It's so underrated.
I know,
It's so
right?
good.
Yeah,
It's
I've
so
heard good things about it. Like I totally forgot about that game. I need
It's
to
a really
pick that
good game.
game
You're
up.
gonna see it in a bargain bin, and you need to pick it up because the two afterward, like Shadows and there was Rise of the Tomb Raider, are not as good as that one. But that one's
This
really
might
good.
lose me some gamer points, but like I don't think I ever played a single Tomb Raider game. Ever. I think I might have played it at a friend's house once, and then I was just like, okay, it's cool, it's fun.
I mean, I
and then
never finished the first one. The only
They were
thing
really
I played of the
hard.
first one was like getting, you know, when she's at the mansion training and like the first one, I always lock the butler in the freezer. That was like my main goal in playing that game, was locking that butler in there. As far as I'm concerned,
you completed that game.
I think I did. I think I won the game.
Yeah.
But I think another reason why Last of Us 2 kind of there's been this kind of adversarial relationship between critics and the gaming audience, and that it's not just with this game. It's been growing for the past like 10 years, and I think it like really hit in like 2014 during like Gamergate and all that the crazy stuff that went down, and everything was crazy, and everyone was yelling at each other and. And so I think ever since that point, there's always this adversarial relationship between the gaming audience and people who get paid to review games. And there really shouldn't be, because they both love games, but it's just like that now there's this thing where you have an audience that says this game isn't a 10 out of 10. But then you have critics that are saying, "Oh, it's a 10 out of 10. You're ridiculous. How dare you say that this game is not a 10 out of 10? You just don't see the artistic vision of this game because you're not as refined as a human being." And gamers would obviously look at that and go, "Well, okay, I'm going to post something on Metacritic saying your game is dumb, stupid, dumb. Period. Send."
Sounds like most game critics. Dumb, stupid, period.
This game is not good.
Not good.
Game critic community is like, this is the worst game I've ever played. It was terrible. 9.5.
Oh my god! I wish. I mean, I just might just do that on Metacritic. Just like, this game is terrible. 9.8.
I feel like, though, it's the same thing with movies, like Rotten Tomatoes. You see some movies on there. I've seen some movies on there that's like, oh, it was squished. It was a bad movie. But then I watch it and like you look at the audience score and it's so much higher. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's a really good movie. Sucks that they didn't like it, but it was really good. I think that like critics always put stuff on a higher standard because they're looking for so much more detail and so much more this and that. And the same thing with the games. Like, it's either going to get a good game because of the art direction or the camera style or like the editing and the animation, and then you know they play it and
would you say that if that is your entire job, like if your job is to review games or any entertainment medium, is it possible that along with doing that and that being your entire job, you do that every single day, you feel like you know this medium, you feel you've researched, you've done all the things, is it possible that is it possible that during your reviews that you're going to make, is it possible that you might have a tinge of ego as a critic?
I mean, Robert and Ebert had a pretty big ego.
Yeah. Well,
but that's their job. Like,
let's address really quickly. Maybe we should address those two, you know, because we're kind of equating and saying a lot of what we know about critics and what good critics are comes from movies, which is a 2-hour experience, right? Mm-hmm. And also they evolve really, really slowly. The people reviewing games have grown up in a time where they can play a game and it actually kind of sucks. They're like, I would have killed to have this 10 years ago because the technology wasn't there and the graphics weren't there and everything else. Right. So they can't just go and have an experience for 2 hours and then come back and digest it and write a review. This is like, oh man, I've been playing this game for 4 days and now I have to write a review that also speaks to people that have never played a game before, or that have never like picked up controls before, or maybe have played the first one and so know this and so they have to do this. So I don't like envy that ability. And I think there's definitely like something to be said for like looking at user reviews too, but these like critic reviews, when a game first comes out, it's like a race to get all the clicks because they have to be the first one to say something about it and they have to be the first one to review it. And we know, empirically, we know that in the video gaming world, some people will say the opposite of what's true just to get clicks. Like we have seen that happen. Like somebody will be like, everyone knows what the number one Nintendo 64 game of all time was. It was Superman 64. And there's a flood of traffic, or they make like a ranking list and they put Superman 64 above Super Mario 64 because a bunch of people are going to come out and a bunch of people, No, I don't envy these guys. I don't know. I kind of feel bad sometimes for people that have to review a video game with a deadline, because that means that now I have to finish it even if I don't like it to get like a unbiased. I don't think they care about being unbiased. But I feel like it's not exactly one-to-one with movies. Unfortunately, because we know, all of us, I think, know what a really, really good movie is and what we like in a good movie. But when it comes to good games, like sometimes we don't even know what we're looking for. Well, Pete said the graphics were good, but
let me also defend myself one more time, because I think in an entertainment medium, like, preferences matter, and so my preferences are like, for games and movies, to tell you the truth, like, I don't particularly like the movies that tell a realistic story, like a so realistic story that there are no such thing as heroes, no such thing as villains, no such thing as everything. Everything is very, very gray, like to the point where like there's no redemption arc because there's no such thing, because in real life, just, you might not ever get redemption for some crazy thing that you did. You might get redemption for yourself. You might feel, forgive yourself, or someone might forgive you for something, but that's not guaranteed. Anyway, like, I always bring up the movie Revolutionary Road, because have you ever seen Revolutionary Road?
No.
Okay, it is a very, very depressing movie. It is about
Vigo is the one called The Road.
Oh, then no, I haven't seen it.
Revolutionary Road is, me and Ash watched it a long time ago. She loves the movie. She thinks it's great because it's about, it's Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, the same people that were in Titanic.
Oh, wait. I was about to say I'd seen it.
It's not Titanic. It's a different movie with the same people.
It's a sequel.
And it's about a failing marriage, and just they cheat on each other, and then it's just awful, the whole movie. And there's just no, I mean, at the end, you're just kind of like, okay, so what's the moral of the story here? Like, life sucks, don't get married. Like, and if you do get married, make sure you get married to someone that's not going to cheat on you and make you have an abortion and all this other stuff. Yeah. So it's like, it's really sad. So I prefer not to watch that sort of realistic sort of movie, because that tells a realistic, marital, thing that happens in marriage sometimes. Like, people just they get married and they hate each other. That's, it's very common, actually. So for my video games, I would prefer not that particular kind of story where it's like, it's trying to tell me a realistic human story where it's probably objectively brilliant and a masterpiece by telling that story. But as an entertainment medium, I'm just kind of like, bro, like, I don't know if I'm ready to put my heart through that, because I want to be entertained. Are you not entertained? I'm not.
I get it. Like, you want to escape from reality for a few hours or whatever. Because your favorite games are like Final Fantasy and like,
yeah.
So you don't want like
heroes and villains.
You don't want to go into a game where you have to play real life. So you're not a Sims player.
I think too. Like, here's another thing too. I also thought of this too, is like, maybe another reason why there was so much like aversion to the actual story was, what's going on in the world right now. It's like, it's very easy to go on the internet and just see a whole bunch of nihilism, whole bunch of like, the world is doomed, hopelessness, it's everyone's fault, this, that, and the other. And then you go and play this game and it's like, well, this isn't an escape from what I deal with on a daily basis. This is in a lot of cases worse, because people are really dying from zombification, but people are dying in the real world. So it's kind of like their escape isn't there.
That's
in fact, you're reminded.
Really good point. In fact, considering that the quest at the first game was this glimmer of hope, it had nothing to do with Ellie, but Ellie's immunization like trait. and like this, things were leading towards a cure. Things were leading towards some kind of like giant salvation moment that would have been at the end of any other game. And your point is fair, because like I said earlier, that's a plot point that kind of, I guess, fades away at the end.
It really does.
Really
It's not about that anymore. It's about the people.
Torch. Yeah.
Maybe the third one will come out. It's about it.
We're all rolling in the mud.
It's kind of similar. It's kind of similar, like how Walking Dead, like in the show Walking Dead, you're kind of like, all right, so is this about zombies?
Audience faded out.
Is it about zombies?
Shane,
or is
it was never about zombies. The Walking Dead refers to the living. We all know this.
I mean, like George Romero's first movie was about it wasn't about zombies.
Yeah, but I get that. He was telling. I get it. Okay.
It was about consumerism.
Very deep allegory. Shane.
Yeah, it's a deep allegory and all this nonsense. I get it. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
here's a glimmer of hope, Shane. I believe like the amount of zombie stuff that's out there is telling me that human beings are getting more empathetic to each other, because the zombie is like a perfect guilt-free kill on screen, right? Like you want to see a human's head explode, but you don't want to feel bad about their wife and children outside of the screen. And so whereas before, maybe, back in the day, people were okay with seeing people just get mowed down. I think I watched some action movie, The Old Guard, right? That Netflix movie with Charlize Theron. And it occurred to me, like, in an 80s action movie, they would have just showed up at the bad guy base and there's just a bunch of people there to kill. And they're bad guys because they're holding guns, and that's the end of it, right? But now,
but they also spoke Russian.
First, yeah, there was an accent. As long as it was an accent, it was a bad guy. But now, right, we have to hear about how they're human traffickers first, or we have to hear about how they're dealing drugs first, or something to kind of like. And so I
justify.
I feel like, and I feel like that's like humans moving in a good direction, maybe, because
that's a good point.
It's not enough.
That's a really good point, because it brings a level of nuance that we didn't have before in an entertainment medium anymore. That was the normal now, because in every show you need to in every show there's no such thing as like unless you're watching like a fantastical show like or anime or whatever, every big name show has anti-heroes and a whole lot of gray. They're the best sorts of stories because, you end up hating one person in the start of the story. Game of Thrones is a perfect example. Mad Men too. You hate someone in the beginning of the story. Jaime Lannister comes to mind. And then by the end of the story, you're rooting for Jaime Lannister. And it's like, I think that was where...
And then you hate him again.
And then you hate him again. The very
end.
And so, like, I think that's what they were trying to do with Last of Us 2, too. And again, respectable. Totally respectable, because that kind of stuff is never really used in video games. But again, it's like, I guess what I'm trying to point out is, like, right now I'm just not in that mood. I'm not in the mood to get all dark and depressed and put myself through that because of what's going on in the world, and maybe it's a timing. Maybe it's just a timing thing. Maybe when things are like awesome again, like everything is just great, everyone's just having a good time, it's like, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm going to escape into a dark place. Last of Us 2.
But there was some like really happy moments in Last of Us 2. There was like, the flashbacks with Joel. It's like, oh, this is so cool. They're exploring a museum.
That's like, really good. Yeah,
Abby
he's
had
dead
some
now.
Happy moment.
But he's dead now.
About that, like, it makes it sad. But if you
again, of course it's sad, because like you're like, that's the whole reason why the Flash is mean something, is because he died. He's dead. Like, the whole reason why those mean something to you, anything to you, is because he's dead. Like,
I'm picturing you, like, those movies where they show you the end scene at the beginning, like the movie shows, like, it opens to like the main character is there, like, bloody, and then they're like, you're probably wondering how I got to this position. And then Shane stands up and goes, damn it, I hate this. He's already dead. I don't care about the flashbacks.
Oh my God.
not,
know.
that'd actually be kind of funny. I actually kind of watch
Where
that.
you stand up and leave because the story's not being chronologically correct as to what you already know and who's dead. If he only exists in Ellie's memories, then he only exists at all. And that's just one more reason why we can relate to the story, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you then you get mad because he's dead, and then you go have a flashback where you play the first one, and that's your flashback of Joel.
Look, I will say this though, like with the gameplay that I saw and a lot of the reviews that I saw, like looking at the game, I was like, holy shit, like this game might be the best looking game I have
It's
ever
beautiful.
seen.
It's
Besides
beautiful.
besides Ghost of Tsushima, that game is brilliant and
No
beautiful.
Horizon
And another
Zero
one,
Dawn, but yeah, Ghost of Tsushima is pretty gorgeous as well.
I
But
mean,
Daniel just bought that game and he was
Dude.
playing it last night and I fell asleep.
the game
Like, darn
is
it.
so good. It's so good.
There's a little bit of clipping. Like it's a from what I've seen, like he was playing this one part and this guy's head just went straight through the ground and like
Oh,
It's
but
an
it
open
wasn't
world game.
supposed to. And
not in 2020, not with my high standards for
yeah, like I just got to play The Last of Us, you know. There was no
Yeah.
clipping heads in that. Like
Yeah, I mean,
No.
it's in a lot of respects, it's an inferior game because it's not, well, because they don't have as much resources. I mean, it's still a big studio. Sucker Punch is still a big studio, but Naughty Dog is like, freaking massive.
These are
you
such
know?
great names for studios.
Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch. But man, Ghost of Tsushima, man, like it's such a fun game because it doesn't try to be anything else other than an homage or homage to the Kurosawa films. That's all it is, and it's beautiful in that. Like it's like this is what the samurai myths are all about. Have at it. And I'm like, yes, and it's not hard. It's not stupid hard like stupid Dark Souls and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice because for some reason if there's a samurai, it's got to be like stupid difficult.
You got to be a samurai in order to play it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great. So you're gonna love it.
I don't know if I'm gonna play that game.
I've
It's
already
a game.
decided
I don't know.
that I will not.
If you're into
play it.
samurais, like it's the best samurai game I've ever played.
I've decided not to play it too because of the beginning where that guy dies.
They
Pissed me
stepped
off.
on. I saw him step on a frog, and it was my favorite frog. It was the reason I liked a different game called Frogger.
Hey, listen,
So,
like then you're gonna miss out on the awesome haikus that you get to write during your travels. You get to murder an entire farm full of Mongols, and then 1 minute after that, you sit down across a nice pond, and then you stare, and then you write your haiku. Still waters.
Do you know I met a guy? Do you know I met a guy that played The Witcher 3? He played The Witcher 3, and I was like, "Oh yeah, man, wasn't that the best game?" He told me he like played it and then learned how to play Gwent and then did nothing but play Gwent for the rest of he didn't do any quests, he didn't fight any monsters, he just played the card game into the game. And that's what I thought of when you were like, I play Ghost of Tsushima so that I can write better haikus during the game. I can write haikus.
Oh my god!
You write haikus, pet foxes, dude, and then kill
The
Mongols.
fox
What else
was
do you
cute
need?
though. Like Daniel was trying to chase a fox, and I was like, "Oh, it's cute." He's like, "You want a fox?" I was like, "Is that are you getting me
And
a fox?"
I will certify that you do not kill the fox in any scene. So
Isn't it?
There
It's
you
like
go.
his like
Did
that.
you
Isn't
try?
it his spirit animal, like the fox?
I'm not necessarily sure on how the Inari myth is or tale is about the Inari. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, it's something to do with like foxes are sort of legendary in some way. I can't remember. I don't know what the actual story is, but that's that's it. It's cool. It's really cool.
They're cute.
And cute, and you get to pet them.
I want
and
one.
it's like, hi. Foxes can be domesticated. Scientists actually
know.
proved that.
I
I
know.
remember watching that. Have you seen that YouTube video?
I've seen plenty of people on YouTube own foxes.
Well,
And
this I believe this one was like this guy this is scientist or something was trying to see how long it would take for foxes to become as domesticated as dogs. And I think he said something crazy numbers, like they're incredibly intelligent, so much so that they can be domesticated faster than dogs did. You know, something like that. I can't remember.
I think this would be our next project.
I'm gonna try to talk Daniel into getting me a fox.
They're like dog cats. Cat
I want
dogs.
one. They're so cute.
Yeah.
I bet my dog would love to play with a fox.
I think, well, sad to say, I don't think you guys have convinced me to run out and buy the game. But I will say it was really informative to actually, hear it from you guys. And I feel like this is Last of Us 1 all over again, where I just didn't want to.
How long did that take for us to get you to play the first one?
It was
it
a
like
while.
a year?
It was longer than that,
Oh,
because that game
I
had
will
been out for a
say-
long time.
I will say that your main complaint was like when you shot somebody and they went down and you couldn't get any supplies, right? They've changed that, and when you kill somebody, you can go over it and they have plenty of supplies.
Thank you.
But first you have to hear them die for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's horrific. There's like a random number. You know how there's like a percentage that will happen? The percentage is 95%.
Well, you got to shoot him in the
Really
right
high.
place.
Just shoot him in the head, brah.
Oh, I guess it was my aim that was terrible.
if you
Shane,
shoot
I
him
know
in the
the
leg.
I know the difficulties you play on, Shane, and they're gonna have ammo when you
Great.
go over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my biggest complaint, man. Like, we had an entire episode based on me like, dude, I shot you in the head. I shot you in the head. You would be at least unconscious.
I will concede that at some point in the game, I just wanted to finish it. I wanted to know what happened in the story. So that meant that I cared more about hearing the rest of the story than about playing like the rest of the gameplay that the game.
Are you talking about the original Last
So
of
I-
Us?
No, I'm talking about Last of Us 2.
Oh, okay.
I turned the difficulty down at a point in the game so that I could just push through. and beat
I'm
them.
all about the storyline in any games. Like if I go in, except one of my favorite games, but I'm not going to tell you what that is because it's not good. But like,
No, I know you can't do that to us now, Cece.
okay, so my favorite game to play if I'm just bored or like I just want to have a good time is Lollipop Chainsaw Massacre.
I knew it. You told us about this one. You said you liked that game. Yeah.
It's so much fun, but I usually go into a game that has like a really good storyline. So the reason I went into Last of Us because I heard it had a great storyline, or Beyond Two Souls, which is also another good one, has a great storyline. I don't usually go in for the gameplay first. I go in for if it's going to be like a movie or
There's a lot of games like that now, like God of War.
Still haven't played that one. I need to play that one.
Shane, what?
I know, dude.
They
I
are like
know.
movies. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like really long movies, pretty much.
like I'll go on YouTube and I'll just watch, like they have a survival horror network. It has like a ton of games on there that he cuts together. It's pretty interesting.
I'd like YouTube survival horror games a lot more if they didn't like fake jump scare at everything and pretend that they were more scared than they were.
The one that I watched, he is no camera or reaction, so it's just the game and there's no commentary. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. When I'm sorry to say it, but I do. I search for no commentary when I watch these games.
Especially if there's like a good storyline. Like,
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm gonna play The Last of Us Part 2. It's gonna be great. What we're doing here, it looks like we got our favorite characters back, and she's talking right now, but you can't hear it because I got things to say.
oh yeah.
That's right. That's
Pretty
why.
much how
That's
it
why I
is.
stick to drumming.
Yeah, Shane's analytical videos are much better. They're not like, "What's up, guys? I'm here with my favorite assassin, and we're walking over a log." Woo."
I do eventually want to start streaming video games when we eventually move to a bigger house and I actually have my own like man cave where I'm not annoying everyone in the house by me screaming and being silly playing the video game.
I mean, my favorite videos of you is with you and like, was it Lampy? Who was it? It was somebody, and you guys were playing the Nintendo. Like,
oh yeah,
I really like this because it was fun because you didn't have to pay attention.
Yeah,
the
I need to do
game.
another one of those. It's just that, well, now I certainly can't. We did that at my buddy's. We did it at Soren's house. We can't do it here because of the dogs and whatnot. And I don't have enough room to do a Let's Play series. I really wish I did, but I really don't. But yeah, I think we said what we all needed to say here, and I really like. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed. Like, this is like old times where we were talking about The Last of Us.
True. Just a shameless plug here. My next video. I know you let me crash your channel sometimes. My next solo video will be about the torture scenes in The Last of Us Part 2.
Are you serious?
That's right.
That's amazing.
So I have more to say.
Oh man, that's gonna be good.
Yes.
Because those are brutal. Pardon the pun.
She went for the collarbone. I would have gone for the ribs.
And then by the end of it, it's just all Star Wars references.
Hey, whoa, Shane! Don't give away my secrets now. That's all I got.
Well, I'm glad y'all invited me to come and talk about The Last of Us.
No, it won't be the last time, Cece.
Yeah,
it won't be The Last of Us.
It won't be The Last of Us. Well, once Last of Us 3 comes out, which I'll probably not see. When Last of Us
talk about it.
I decided I'm really not playing Last of Us Part 3, even though the whole thing is a flashback and you play as Joel the whole time. I just know he's dead in my heart.
Yeah, I can't do it. That's another thing I don't really like is like prequels and stuff. Like, I'm not a big fan of like just a prequel. Like the idea of a prequel. Like,
I don't like prequels.
Dude, they established in Super Mario 2 that he dies of old age at the very beginning. And what you're seeing every Mario since then.
I'm not a big fan of like prequel movies either. Like the one I hated the most, and this is probably gonna like piss both of you off, is Star Wars Rogue One.
I never watched it.
I didn't like that movie either.
Really? I've never met anybody
that doesn't like it. Everybody's Rogue One's amazing.
It was pointless. It was
Rogue so good. I did not like Rogue One.
Thank you. It was a pointless movie. There was needed no reason for this movie. I know what happens. You don't have to tell me what happens. It's dumb, and I just wasted 2 hours of my life watching this failure, and it's stupid. Thank you, Evan. Thank you.
No, thank you. My next video is not going to be about The Last of Us Part 2 torture. It's going to be about the other torture, and that was me watching Rogue One.
I cannot wait to tell Daniel, because like I was so mad after finishing the movie. I was like, this was stupid. I can't believe you made me watch this movie.
I couldn't. You know what the moment was for me?
This is what we should have been talking about the whole time.
There was this moment where one of the rebels is like, he's got hat in hand, and he's like, guys, we've got to step it up, and we've got to work hard, and we got to fight and beat the Empire, because we've all done horrible things when we worked as assassins and smugglers, and it has to mean something. And I was like, whoa, there's no gray ambiguity. You know, just because it's cool to put moral ambiguity in your movie doesn't mean you make the rebels bad and the Empire good. Yeah. That's not how this works.
It was everything that happened. I was getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And then at the end, I was just sitting there and being like, well, that was pointless. That was a waste. And Daniel's like, no. This tells you exactly how they got the plans for the Death Star. How do you think they got? I was like, I don't care. Like the first one showed me what happened. I'm good. I'm so happy someone agrees with me.
Have you ever seen, I want to quote Patton Oswalt. So if your kids have been watching this, just put them to bed at this point. But Patton Oswalt, in one of his stand-ups, he's like, no one needs to see where Darth Vader came from. Like, none of us were like, ooh, look, Darth Vader, we love him so much. Let's see him as a little kid. That'd be like being like, ooh, Angelina Jolie, you like her? Huh? You think she's hot? Well, here's John Voight's balls.
Exactly. And that's how I felt. Rogue One was John Voight's balls. That's what it was.
Pretty much. Solo wasn't bad though.
The guy that played Solo was adorable. And what's his face?
Donald Glover?
Yes. Oh, he was so good.
He's the best.
I don't even really like Star Wars much, but I loved that. That was so good. Yeah.
You watch Community, right?
A few episodes. I need to get into it, but
they're all on Netflix now. That's a great show.
Daniel's gonna get mad because that's what I'm gonna be watching.
Does he not like Donald Glover?
No, he just doesn't like when I binge watch shows. But I think it's just because I binge watched Criminal Minds like 3 times. So I think it's time to like.
Speaking of good shows, there's a lot to see on Criminal Minds.
Yeah, Spencer Reed.
My favorite thing about Criminal Minds is they have 5 of the same character, the stoic FBI agent that takes no nonsense and never smiles about anything, is like most of the team. And then Spencer Reed stands out because he like actually has a personality.
He's adorable.
Yeah.
I could talk about Spencer Reed. That could be another podcast, just talking about Spencer Reed from Criminal Minds.
Me and Ash are rewatching Schitt's Creek again.
I've heard that was so funny.
It's so good. It's so freaking funny. It's different funny. It's not like The Office funny or it's just like it's its own kind of funny. It's just really good. It's really good comedic show. Another great comedic show, which actually talks about more morals that I really liked, was The Good Place. You ever watched The Good Place?
I watched a few episodes.
Like I love it because
you gotta go from start to finish though. Really, like you gotta see the thing and then think about it.
Yeah, it's like it's a comedy, but it's a comedy that makes you think about like the complexity of what morals are, and like how it's just great because if you think you know what morality is, you really don't, because these philosophers for millennia have been trying to figure that one out, and it's just this little comedy kind of just points that out in a very funny way. It's great. It's a wonderful show that I can't recommend enough.
I'm watching Doom Patrol right now. That's pretty good.
Oh, I've heard that's good.
Yeah.
Is that based on the video game too?
I think it's just the comic book. I don't know. I don't really know much of the lore.
TV series Paw Patrol.
Yeah, Paw Patrol. That's what it is.
Paw Patrol.
Doom Patrol. It has Brendan Fraser in it. Like.
That's right.
Yeah, like he's like a voice, and I was like, Brendan Fraser, I missed you so much.
Done.
Glad you're back.
Yeah, he got a raw deal.
Poor guy.
All right, guys. Let's go ahead and end the podcast.
Sad note, Brendan Fraser.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you guys so much for doing this. This was so fun. And, hey, you know what? I listened to your points, and I will say that I'm a little bit more on the spectrum of like, you know what? I mean, one day I'll play it, as opposed to like, I refuse to play it. I'm not going to do it. And then talking to you guys, I was kind of like, you know what? They bring up some good points.
But you're still not going to do it.
Maybe.
Oh my gosh, Shane!
I'm gonna do it.
This.
It's gonna be The Last of Us all over again. We're just like, come on, Shane, but we're not there to like really pester him.
We can bring it up in every single one of these podcasts until he relents.
No, I think we should just bring it up on a stream.
You could try your best. You could try your best. I will accept it, but I get it. I've probably made a lot of people mad in this podcast. I may not. Who knows? I don't know. And I apologize for that. But you know what? I don't apologize, because you know what? It's a preference thing. I'll play it. I don't know.
You just shit on Rogue One. I think preferences have already like went out the door.
The door.
Yeah.
There's no one still listening after all the stuff we shit on. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate you guys, and we're going to do it again sometime soon.
Let's talk about movies and scary stuff next time.
Yeah. That would be fun.
That would be fun. I would enjoy that. All right. I'll see you guys next time.